What if your family, your whole emotional life, has been running on an invisible, faulty algorithm long before anyone even thought of Facebook? Today, we're doing a deep dive into the really powerful work of Francisco Castillo. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and his book, The Generational Algorithm, well, it reframes family trauma and all that emotional stuff we inherit. He uses this lens of, social media and tech that we all understand now. Our goal here is just to explore this hidden code he talks about and understand why it's running our lives without, giving away all the solutions he offers in the book itself. Because really, have you ever felt that weird sense that you're reacting to something happening right now but using old programming, like you're reading lines from a script you didn't write? But that feeling, that's it. That's your inherited emotional operating system running automatically.
It's such a spot-on metaphor, isn't it? And what's really compelling about Castillo's whole argument is this idea that, long before tech giants built their platforms, families were the original social networks. They created these incredibly powerful echo chambers, these filter bubbles that could last an entire lifetime, setting up emotional codes that just stick.
And the timing of the install, that's what really gets me. We think of ourselves as adults making choices, but he points out that the core programming, the really fundamental stuff, it happens shockingly early.
Oh, absolutely. There's research backing this up. Something like 75% of adults are, without knowing it, running emotional software that got programmed before they were even 7 years old.
Wow, 75%.
Yeah. So by the time you think you're consciously choosing things, a huge chunk of your emotional response system is already set.
So before you could even analyze it critically, before you had any kind of cognitive firewall up,
Exactly. Your system was already coded. Your family's way of being, their rules, their silences, they all went in. And the neuroscience behind it makes it even clearer. Think about your brain taking in, something like 11 million bits of information every second.
That's overwhelming just to think about.
Right. And your conscious mind can maybe process 40 of those bits. Your family's programming, that installed software, basically decides which 40 bits get through, which ones are important, which ones get marked as spam, which ones you literally never become aware of. It shapes your whole reality from the ground up.
It's like your perception is dictated by code written when you were in this really vulnerable, almost hypnotic state. You mentioned the theta state earlier. Maybe quickly explain why that's such a key period for this installation.
Sure. So theta brainwaves are dominant in early childhood, up to age 7 or so. It's a state associated with deep relaxation, imagination, but also high suggestibility. It's essentially when the brain is wide open, just absorbing information without much critical filtering. Think of it like installing the basic operating system before the security software or the analytical thinking parts are fully online.
Maximum vulnerability, but also maximum learning, like you said.
Exactly. That's why those early experiences are so foundational.
Okay, so if this core code is written before we can even really question it, the big question has to be, can we change it? Can it be rewritten? And that kind of need for transformation seems central to Francisco Castillo's own story. I mean, the person guiding us through this, his background is pretty unique. It blends that deep therapy knowledge with some serious real-world resilience.
Yeah, his path wasn't exactly typical. High school dropout, gets his GED, then joins the Navy, ends up serving 20 years on active duty.
20 years, wow.
And he earned his degrees while serving. Eventually becomes a licensed marriage and family therapist out in Hawaii. That mix, the structure of the military, the active duty experience, plus the deep dive into psychology, you can see how that would shape a really practical, grounded approach. He had to figure things out in demanding situations.
Right. And he actually talks about his own life as this ongoing process of, quote, rewriting his own family algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that authenticity comes through. It's probably why his podcast, Cruising for Clarity with the Therapist, connects with people.
Yeah.
He's lived the possibility of change.
Which leads right into his core message, the thing that offers so much hope, really. It's basically, you are not broken. You're running outdated emotional software that can be updated.
That's such a powerful reframe. Lifts the shame, right? Suggests it's about needing an update, not being fundamentally flawed. Like incompetence, not pathology.
It absolutely does. But, there's a potential counterpoint there. Does calling it outdated software maybe let us off the hook too easily? How does he balance that idea that it wasn't our fault it got installed with the need for us to actually take responsibility for fixing it now?
That's a fair question. I think he addresses it by really emphasizing the original purpose of that code. It wasn't bad code initially. Those algorithms, those reactions, They were adaptive. They probably helped you survive a chaotic or unpredictable childhood environment. They were emergency software.
Okay, that makes sense. Survival mechanisms.
Exactly. So the issue isn't that the algorithms exist. The real problem, as he puts it, is that we're still running emergency software when the emergency has passed. We're using survival tactics from the past in our present, maybe safer relationships.
Okay. So the responsibility isn't for the installation, it's for recognizing the emergency is over and choosing to initiate the update.
Precisely. Choosing to manually override the autopilot. So let's maybe touch on some of the core concepts he uses. Because the way he names these patterns using digital metaphors is really insightful. It helps you recognize things you might already be experiencing. We won't spoil the how to fix them, just map the territory a bit. First up is the personalized emotional feed. Think about your social media feed, right? It learns what keeps you scrolling, what gets a reaction, and serves you more of that.
Even if it's negative stuff.
Exactly. Well, he argues your emotional life works similarly. Your internal system keeps serving up the same familiar emotional patterns, even painful ones, because they're known. They get engagement from your nervous system.
And the why behind that is key, isn't it? That familiarity, even if it's painful chaos, feels safer to the old programming than the unknown of peace or stability.
Yeah, the known dysfunction feels predictable, paradoxically safe, compared to healthy connection, which might feel unfamiliar, even boring or threatening to the old code. It makes leaving toxic situations incredibly hard.
Right. Which ties into the next one he talks about, filtered reality.
Ah, yes, the filter. How your family system, often built on some kind of denial, maybe money issues, emotions, addiction, whatever, installs this really powerful filter. It basically makes toxic behavior invisible or seem normal because the system needs everyone to ignore it to keep functioning, even dysfunctionally.
That's where it gets really insidious. You literally might not perceive criticism as criticism or neglect as neglect because you're running the family's filter software. Oh, that's just how mom is, or dad didn't mean it that way.
In reality, it's warped to fit the required narrative.
Exactly. And challenging that filter, that risks upsetting the whole system, which feels like a survival threat to that deep programming. It's like trying to install an update that the main system flags as a virus.
Then there's muted emotions. This is like the unspoken family rules about which feelings are okay to show and which ones are, spam. If anger wasn't allowed, or maybe showing vulnerability got you punished or ignored, your internal system basically learns to hit mute on those feelings.
But muting them doesn't make them go away, right? That's the crucial part. Castillo points out this often leads to physical symptoms, somatic issues.
Right, so the feeling gets pushed down, but the energy has to go somewhere.
Exactly. It might show up as chronic headaches, muscle tension, gut problems, that kind of thing. The body speaks what the mouth isn't allowed to. Suppressed emotion doesn't vanish. It just finds a different channel.
So that constant jaw clenching or shoulder tension I carry around, it might not just be work stress. It could literally be years of my internal system muting anger or fear based on old family rules.
That's precisely the connection he encourages you to explore. The body is keeping score, translating that muted emotional energy into physical sensation.
Okay, and one more really powerful one. Being stuck in the loop.
Ah, the trauma bond.
Yeah, this explains that terrifying cycle where people get stuck in relationships with chaotic or harmful people. He describes it almost like an addiction. Your brain gets hooked on the unpredictable cycle of tension and relief, chaos and kindness.
It's the intermittent reinforcement thing. That unpredictability, sometimes abuse, sometimes affection, creates a much stronger neurological hook than just consistent kindness, strangely enough.
It sounds counterintuitive, but chemically.
Chemically, it makes sense. The brain gets hits of stress hormones like cortisol during the bad times, then maybe dopamine or oxytocin during the brief good times. That up and down cycle becomes addictive.
Your system starts craving the cycle itself. Peace feels boring or even unsafe because it doesn't have that familiar spike in relief.
Exactly. The chaos becomes the known quantity, the signal that relief might be coming. Breaking free means detoxing from that entire neurochemical pattern.
So these concepts, the feed, the filter, the mute, the loop, they're like names for the glitches in the software. They give you a language to understand these patterns you might recognize in yourself or others.
Yeah, it makes the invisible visible. You start seeing the code running.
Okay, so we see the patterns. We get that the code was installed early, maybe served a purpose then, but is causing problems now. What's next? Where's the hope?
Well, the really encouraging part of Castillo's work is that he doesn't just diagnose the problem, he offers a clear, structured way to address it. It's called the DECODE method.
Decode.
Right?
Yes.
It's an acronym, a step-by-step process. We won't go through it all, but just knowing the first few steps gives you a sense of agency. It starts with detect the pattern.
Recognizing it when it happens.
Exactly. Then examine its origins. Where did this come from? And challenge its validity now. Is this pattern actually serving you today?
Just those first steps feel empowering. It shifts you from being passively run by the program to actively looking at the program.
Precisely. From user to, well, maybe not developer instantly, but at least someone with administrative rights.
Yeah, I like that. Admin access.
And that really connects back to the big picture. Yes, your family, your early environment installed that first algorithm. You didn't choose it. But here's the shift. You do have administrative access now. You're not stuck with the default settings forever. You have the ability to change the code.
So the book, The Generational Algorithm, is kind of like the user manual you never got for your own emotional operating system.
That's a great way to put it. It helps you understand the system you've been running without even realizing it. And it guides you toward installing updates based on your adult needs and values, not just four-year-old survival logic.
And Castillo's own journey, from dropout to therapist, that underscores the whole message. It's actual proof that rewriting this stuff is possible, even if it's hard work.
Absolutely. It shows that your emotional inheritance, those patterns you received, they don't have to be your final destination. The system might have flaws, but the power to update, to evolve, that rests with you now.
So if you're feeling tired of seeing the same old patterns play out, if you suspect you might be running some outdated emergency software long after the emergency is over, maybe it's time to explore how you can update those core directives. Finding the guide, the generational algorithm, could be the first step in starting that update for yourself. Your next chapter, it really can begin now.